know, we live in a world, and we see a lot of things on social media. We hear people telling us, well, this is how you should be, and to a certain extent, in a sense, this is kind of what we do. We talk about our experiences, and sometimes we would like for people to take some of what we have learned and incorporate that into their lives, good, bad, or indifferent. And sometimes when you get new information, sometimes that can cause you to second guess um things that you may have already believed. And in a sense, if you take on those new things and you apply them, you in a sense become a different version of yourself. And some would say, well, maybe you're not true to yourself because you have changed your mind about a stance. But I don't agree with that. So with that being said, gentlemen, the first question of tonight is this: what does stand true to yourself mean to you personally? So again, this is personally what stand true to yourself means to you.
I know
Oh,
Dwayne
Coach got the hands rubbing, so
he got to go, so I got to beat him to it. When I was looking at it and I was thinking about it, I was like, stand true to yourself, and it was all about me. So I think that is it's like a misnomer. It's something that if I'm staying true to myself, I'm satisfying me. And I know how people say it and how they mean it, but I look at staying true to self. I got to stay true to him, because staying true to me, I'm satisfying me. That means I'm going out with a blaze of glory. That means I don't care what happens with nobody else. It's all about me, and it's my world, and everybody else just squirrels, and you know how that goes. So I look at it differently than just, oh, I got to stay true to my values and my this and my that, because I don't have any outside of him.
Thank you, Coach, for giving me time to unmute, because since Roland already said he thinks differently, but still already said half of what I was thinking. Let me try to squeeze something in there before Coach go. But I agree with Ro. I think the terminology of being true to yourself can be a destructive road, or it can be a growing road, a road of ever growing, depending on how you view it. If we view it in a selfish kind of way, to me, I look at it as a road to destruction when we say terms like staying true to myself, because I believe it has become a mantra for people to say, I don't have to get better, just accept me as who I am. I don't have to try harder, just accept me for who I am. I don't have to put any energy towards anything, just accept me for who I am. And that's leading to death. That mindset is straight destruction. But when we look at as staying true to myself, does not mean not changing. It means evolving truly with who you are, with who you say you are, with what you are about. If I'm a musician, all because I know a couple of chords, being true to myself don't mean practicing every song in one key in them same chords. No, I have to learn to evolve through all different, all seven, 14 notes, right? All major keys, minor. I got to learn it all. I have to learn the different progressions. I have to constantly be becoming more skilled at what this thing is that I identify myself as. And so, like Roland said, I identify myself in the Most High. So, therefore, I should not be stuck where I was in my relationship and in my knowledge of Him that I was a year ago, a week ago, right? I have to be ever growing and ever evolving in that thing in which I claim that I am, so that I can be truly true to myself.
Fooey. Y'all stole my thunder, man. You're right. This is the biggest lie known to man. I don't care what nobody said. This is the reason why most people behave the way that they behave. Stuff like this, it keeps them in a space of stubbornness. because this term right here, this phrase, gives them permission to reject outside information. It gives them permission to reject feedback. And so when you walk around saying, I got to stay true to myself, you think you know who you are, but the only thing you're doing is lying to yourself because you don't know who you are. You're constantly in the space of learning. I love the fact that James Samuel and Miss Charlotte Jordan, good to see both of you, stated that holding on to my values and beliefs. But even that is flawed. My perspective of those values and those beliefs, they grow over time, like Gaddy stated. So what I believed at one particular point in time was, let's just say, kindness. My perspective of kindness at one point in time does not look the same thing as what kindness looks like today. And that's where you guys hear me say all the time, I'm kind, I'm not nice, right? I am that person that's going to tell you exactly what you need to hear. Again, if you choose to allow it to hurt you, that's a choice that you made, but it's probably what you need to hear in that particular moment. Staying true to yourself, quotations, it is a notion that has been put out there in the world, in society, giving you permission to reject feedback about you.
I think this is a good opportunity for me to implement the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is this: we are all a subject matter experts of our own opinions. Coach has his opinion. The available man has his opinion. Unc has his opinion. And so does Mr. Roland, Mr. Shift Happens. Right? So with that being said, I'm taking this same question for face value as it is what it is, and maybe give a perspective for someone who may be watching, who may not be where they are in their walk with whomever they believe in. So what does staying true to yourself mean to you personally? I think it means that my actions line up with my beliefs and my morals. So what I mean by that is this: if I am staying true to who I am, if I say, and I'm gonna if I say that I am a child of God, and that's how I identify as, then staying true to yourself means that my actions line up with being a child of God. So that's kind of the way I see it. And then, if you want to take the spiritual part out of it, I think that having the actions that go behind the beliefs and the morals that you live, I think they can be evolving. I think that when you say, hey, that I'm a stand-up man, I believe in taking care of my family, and then you go about and you act on that and you do that, I think that is being true to who you are. And I think that it definitely can evolve over time. I think that it can grow over time. And I think also, in a sense, being true to yourself could also be a negative thing. If you are saying, hey, look, this is just how I talk to people, and so this is who I am, and you're being true to yourself. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I think that is also being true to yourself. But now that I went against the grain on all of this, I am definitely open to hearing counter feedback or different perspectives based off of my thoughts. If anybody,
I understand exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I understand what you're saying and where you're coming from and that perspective. But that perspective still leads me dependent on me and my thought. So where it's saying I'm growing, your growth comes when you think you need to grow, not necessarily when you need to grow. So whereas like I will read materials, I will read everything. So not so that, because some people will say, well, you should, when I was coming up, I was taught you should read this, you shouldn't read that, because this will take you where you don't want to go. But if I don't necessarily know that perspective, it doesn't give me the flexibility to make up my own decisions in mind so that I can see what is truly right. So I'm caught between two opinions because I want to stand with you, but I want to stand over here. You know, it's like I don't necessarily know where I am, but I know where my feet are right now. So I'm standing here. So you aren't really growing. You're standing where you are, and you're being stern in that moment, not necessarily willing to grow because you say, "Well, I'm standing firm on what I believe," whereas you don't necessarily know you believe because you've never tested your faith, you've never stretched it to the point where it made you uncomfortable enough to grow.
I think if you spend enough time on social media, scroll through your TikTok, your Instagram reels or what have you, you're gonna see 1,000 different commercials, and each one of these commercials are going to tell you that they're going to teach you one skill to land you a job, a shortcut to get into real estate. They're going to teach you a hack into investment. But one thing that they can never promise is you will never leave there a realtor. You will never leave there as a tech guru. You will never leave there as as a as a true investor or a broker. You're going in there with a single a single skill to have enough to say I've learned something. And I think that that's where a lot of us have become comfortable with in our lives, right? So when we say my core values, but have any of us ever taken our core values and investigated them and see what does it mean to respect my elders? Does that simply just mean yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am? Or is this something that goes beyond just saying yes and no sir? You know, we do we so if we don't, we could just say we could say, well, I grew up in such and such. You know, I just learned to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. But I can't say that I truly respect my elders if I don't listen to anything being told to me. If I don't mind my work, when I grew up, you had to mind how you talked when the grown folk came in the room. It didn't matter who the grown folk was. Get popped right in your mouth. So there's a thing attached to what you call the core value, right? There's a thing that's attached to what you call your belief, but you have to go beyond. You have to go beyond the foundation in order to say that I'm true to myself. If you never go and actually study and take the exam that the realtor takes, then you can have dabbled into real estate, but you're not true to yourself because you're not a realtor. Now, if you're a real estate investor, that's different. Then say that. But if I like I go back to the music, if I never practice beyond the basics of which I was given, then I'm not a musician. I'm just a guy that knows how to play a little bit of piano, a little bit of drums, or a little bit of this. But I'm not a musician. I'm not an artist. And so, to me, in order to be true to yourself, you have to be willing, or at least attempting, to master that thing. Not that we'll ever obtain, but I'll leave that alone.
I just got a dumb question, real quick, real quick. Are we saying the notion of stay true to yourself? Are we saying that stay true to yourself and being authentic? Are we saying that's the same thing?
I don't know. Are we? Anybody?
I don't think that would. I wouldn't say it's the same thing. I wouldn't necessarily say authentic is you, who you are. Staying true to yourself is almost gimmicky. It's almost catchphrasy, where somebody puts something out there to make you feel a certain way, to push the narrative about you, not you. So now you have to try to be, you have to emulate, you have to do something else. But authenticity, it just is. You get the dirty me, you get the clean me, you get me.
Okay. I just wanted to get a little clarity on that because that's what I'm hearing in the midst of it. And I'll say it differently. Being authentic is where what I do lines up perfectly with what I believe. And so, in the quest of becoming more authentic, my deeds come from the source of my being, and my being is created by my belief system. But when we say stay true to yourself, that's more of a fixed mindset because I already believe that I know exactly what being true. And again, Uncle, we talked earlier, there's a difference between the truth, what is true, facts, assumptions, and opinions. And I think a lot of times what we do is we of course the truth, we appreciate that the truth. We are in pursuit always of what is true. We look at facts, and a lot of times we place a high degree of value on facts, but facts are different to different people. We automatically throw assumptions in the trash as though assumptions don't have some lineage of fact, which can draw to an assumption. Therefore, both facts and assumptions are valuable. Opinions, depending upon who they come from, they should carry value. But if it's just an opinion coming from somebody, some random person, so now that comes in, that's a thing. And I said all that because I think it's important for us to understand when it comes down to stay true to to myself. I need to understand that I had a thought process of what myself or who I am or whatever that looks like. But then when people are observing my behavior and they give me feedback based upon what they observe, and this is who I say that I am, this is what I'm saying I believe, then their feedback becomes valuable based upon what I said I believe. So, in the space of all of that, when you look at someone helping you, and I'm going back to the feedback thing, when you look at someone helping you to become authentic or putting you in the perspective of authentic, it means that I cannot have a fixed mindset in staying true to myself.
Okay. Follow-up question. How has your definition of staying true to yourself evolved over time? Just anybody. Actually, I don't even want everybody. Just one or two people, just to just a follow-up question to anybody. How? Because, you know, most of us are over the age of 30 now. So we think differently than we did when we were 20, because for some people, this may be the first time they've heard a different perspective on, staying true to yourself. So, with that being said, how has your definition of staying true to yourself changed or evolved over time?
I think we've been, at least for me, we've been talking about it because, and I think, and I'm listening to Coach, and I really want to hear more because I'm hearing what he's hearing from us, from him at the same time, because I think it's just how we are defining authenticity and true to yourself. But it it evolved because I used to think of it as how my mama used to tell me, "Don't worry about what nobody else got to say about you. Just do do what you do what you got to do what makes you happy." Right? I thought about it like that. So if someone said, "Hey, you're not doing this right," I said, "Well, that's your opinion. I don't have to adopt your opinion." And it kept me from being able to receive that information and that criticism. Now, when I look at staying true to myself, it is first identifying who I am and learning what that is in order to be true to it. And I think that's what I mean by growing, by studying, by understanding, because I'm thinking, I used to think that it means don't ever change, don't ever evolve, don't just be who I am. But now I understand it to mean whoever I say that I am or whatever I believe that I am, I must understand that thing and then fully grow in that thing. And that means just continuing to grow every day.
I think for me, how has my definition changed over time? I always say that I've been stupid in my 20s. I've been stupid in my 30s, and in my 40s. Now I'm in my 50s. So at each level, there was a level of ignorance. I say stupid, I'm talking to myself about myself, not meaning stupid as in stupidity, but ignorant of some things, because there were some things that I didn't know. And when you get older and when you've lived, you start to learn, like, man, I didn't know everything. But at that point, I thought I did. So when it comes to my definition of staying true to myself, at some point in life, I was one of them kids that was like, no, this is my set, this is my hood. I die for this. And I'm looking like, why? Because I was in that space and I didn't know right. It's like the old folks used to say, you still wet behind the ears. Not that you still wet behind the ears, but that you haven't lived enough to know what you should be doing in the future. You only know enough for right now. So I think my definition about it has changed, that I know at some point there will be something said that I look back and say, man, I didn't always see it that way. But my perspectives may change because of new knowledge. So now that's why I always seek new knowledge, because one thing I hate to be is ignorant of something. So I'm always seeking a new knowledge.
Ready for the curveball now?
Yeah, I want no curveballs all night.
No, man, you're good. You're good. Because what I was articulating the first time is a person's perspective of a statement that has not yet reached the level of maturity. And so, in a person's immature state, they have a fixed mindset based upon a statement. But then, when they, and I bring your question back up, um, when they mature, they start realizing that words mean things. And so, how do I stay true? Let's put the to self part to the side for a second. How do I stay true? Well, what am I staying true to first? Well, now we go back into that belief system. What do I believe? What do I value? What do I focus my attention on? What do I give all my attention to? That's why I said clearly there's a difference between the truth, what is true, facts, assumptions, and opinion. And so if my focus is always on the truth, and again, I can only speak for me because I'm a believer. If my focus is always on the truth, then how do I stay true? Well, my goal is to properly align with him, his words, and things of that nature. So now, in that aspect, to myself, it means that now I must be an objective observer of my own behavior in real time. So it's not me having a fixed mindset on what I believe or how deep my belief system is or whatever the case may be. No, it's me recognizing that within the scope of what is true, there's four different perspectives on the screen. So I can hear what Uncle Junior is saying, I can hear what Roland's saying, I can hear what Gad is saying, and recognize that they may have a different perspective of the truth, as long as it's not 180 degrees in the opposite direction. So as I'm listening to what everyone is saying, I can say, okay, I can see that. Okay, I can see that. As opposed to saying, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. Or, articulating what I like and what I don't like. At the end of the day, we really need to stop doing that. We really need to stop making what we like and what we don't like a key focus. Nobody cares. At the end of the day, I'm just going to be transparent. I'm sorry. I'll be the honest broker tonight. Nobody cares what you like and what you don't like in the face of what is true. We live in a world right now to where we can't analyze facts because we have a flawed perspective of reality. We can't analyze facts authentically and make an honest decision based upon the facts. We like to move to the speed of likes, and therefore we will make a bad decision based upon I like this and I like this and I like this and I like this, but you never analyze the facts that went along with it. And going back to that wolf that we were talking about earlier today, when you get bit by the wolf, now you mad because the wolf bit you, but the wolf told you the wolf was a wolf in the beginning, but you made the decision for the wolf. So that's my long-winded response. That's my curveball.
Always like a good curveball. Gaddy mentioned earlier about he mentioned the word society. I mean social media. And when it comes to social media, we live in a day and age where we see certain things on social media all the time. Back in the day when we watched TV a lot, that was the main source of information, what came on television and what came on in the news, and then what you may have heard on the radio and the newspaper or magazine. So that's how we got information. By the time it came on the news, it had already happened. It was already old information. Now, as soon as something happens, we have the ability to see it live in real time. So we don't have to wait until the paper comes out in order to see what happened last night up in New York City. I can go to New York City YouTube channel live, ABC News or something like that, and I can see exactly what's going on. And with that being said, we get information from different places, and now that we have social media, I think that we have places like this platform. We have other platforms that are positive. We have platforms that may not be doing such a good job at sharing information, and then we have platforms whose purpose is just for entertainment, and all things is what it is. So how do societal changes challenge or reinforce your beliefs? Societal changes.
Well, so I like this question coming off the backs of being true to yourself, because if we are truly true, based upon how we talked about it, I think it does neither. It challenges your belief if you're not rooted in those beliefs. If you haven't done the work and the homework, right? That goes back to what we were talking about. Only way that I can be rooted and grounded is if I have understanding and knowledge and faith. Roland talked about that as well. And faith. Then I'm not the societal changes does not affect my belief. It affects how I move in that society. Right? That's about it. You know, if what was it? Well, me and Ro one day. Matter of fact, no, I think it was Andy. All of us probably going on Zoom, and we were talking, and we was like, we don't eat this. We don't eat pork no more. That's just something that we've come to do. We stopped eating pork, and then we start looking. We like, pork is in gelatin. You mean I can't have no more gummy worms? I can't have no more Skittles. Like if society changed how it puts ingredients in food, so therefore it doesn't change my belief of not eating pork. It changed how I have to move in society. Now I realize I can't move, I can't eat this, or I realize I have to see and pay attention to what is being done in society so that I don't get caught up in a snare.
I think societal changes aren't always negative. I think there's some things within society that happens so that you can see what you were doing had you on the wrong path. What you were doing, you needed to learn this. When it comes to dietary supplements or dietary things, with me, things that I want to keep out of my body, things that I know will hinder me in the long run. I learned that more from social media, more from looking online and reading other materials other than me going to a cookbook or whatever, because there's information out there. So it's all about the information that you allow to come inside, the information that you take in. Because if you're only taking in that mess that's on social media, because this is on social media, if you're only taking in that stuff that's they're simply for entertainment, or you take in some things for edutainment and some things that are just there to distract you, because there are some things out there that's just going to distract you. If you focus on those things, then you will be all over the place. But if you rather if you make sure that when you are spending time in society, that hey, I'm taking this in for knowledge base, not so that it will change me, but so that I'm aware. I think awareness has a lot to do with it. So it reinforces, I don't know if it reinforces your beliefs, because I don't know if the social changes reinforce that, or you just see certain things that were spoken of that's coming to pass.
Yeah, my answer is neither nor. Um, my beliefs don't stem from society. Um, and therefore, if my beliefs don't stem from society, they don't necessarily challenge or reinforce them. Sure, there may be information that I can gain from society, social media, whatever that looks like, but it shouldn't challenge or reinforce society as a whole. And you have to understand, when we say society, we're talking big picture. We're not necessarily talking neighborhood or the bros or whatever that looks like. We're talking big picture. So the way that the world moves doesn't challenge or reinforce my beliefs, and sometimes it really just validates what I believe a lot of times. um, so I think when we look at it, for me, and again, I can't speak for everybody else, I say neither nor. It doesn't challenge nor does it reinforce. It reveals some of the things that the core document or the core doctrine in which my belief stems from. It validates a lot of what it talks about. So when I see certain things happening in society, it's like, oh yeah, we kind of had an understanding that this would actually happen. So that's where I will go with. I think when it comes down to what we're saying, thank you at his divine appointment. I think when it comes down to what this actually says to us, I think, and this is just my perspective, if society has the ability to change my belief, then I would offer to say that my belief was not rooted in anything concrete.
Um, I've heard everything. I like coaches neither nor. I was rocking with what Roland said, and then I liked how he was, thinking at the end. I was rocking with you because I was rolling that same thought pattern. And I initially had the same exact thought that Gaddy has said. It doesn't affect, like Coach said, it doesn't neither nor. It doesn't affect my beliefs. It does affect how I move, and things that I may do, but my beliefs don't change. There may be certain things I have to do different, but the way that society changes does not affect my beliefs at all, So appreciate all y'all for that. One of the things that as we move along is doubt. When we talking about staying true to yourself, sometimes we get new information, and then sometimes it can cause doubt and uncertainty and not being sure about which way is right. I remember growing up in the church, there were some things that I had learned, and when I got older and I went to a different church, I heard some different things. When I started reading, I got a different interpretation or a different perspective about it. So it's like, so it's like, I don't know. So with that being said, the question is this: can self belief coexist with self doubt? Can self belief coexist with self doubt?
Can I move the word self out of there?
Absolutely, you can.
All right, very good. So can belief coexist with doubt? Um, I believe in the scope of belief, there are different echelons. Of course, the highest echelon being complete or confidence, and the lowest echelon itself being kind of it's still wavering. You have an awareness of a thing that can be, but it's kind of wavering. It's not necessarily something that you're greatly confident in. So then, in the midst of that, can belief exist with doubt in its lower echelons? Absolutely. We see it all. We see it all the time. We see it every day. right? People say they believe in a thing, but yet they doubt at the exact same time. Should it exist in the same space? Absolutely not. But does it? Absolutely. And I don't care who you are, we can say, oh, I believe this, I believe that, I believe this. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about previously. We can say we believe a thing, but what ends up happening when life meets you at this level? Do you still believe that thing that you say that you believe? And because the evidence of belief is discovered through your behavior. So when your behavior shows up in the midst of this thing that happens, then what you will realize is that, well, not as much as I really did. Now, the question becomes at that point for that person, do I recognize my behavior in real time so I can become more authentic? So I can change my behavior as it comes down to the thing that I say I believe. Because again, saying is one thing, doing is totally different. The doing is the truth. The saying is the direction in which I'm trying to go.
And I'm gonna jump on this one before Roland and Gaddy do it, just because I don't know. I really don't know. Part of me wants to say that it cannot exist. If I believe something, then there can't be any doubt. And if I have the doubt, then I don't really believe, you know? So that's but here's where I am. So I'm gonna repeat that, and I'm gonna make that my stance for right now. But as an open-minded person, I am open to having my opinion or my perspective changed based off of further information. But for right now, my stance is that if you believe something, it cannot coexist with doubt. We removed the self part just because Coach said it. If y'all want to throw back in self, that's fine. When y'all give y'all perspectives, but my perspective is, if you believe something, then you can have the doubt. Because if you have the doubt, then you don't believe.
Jump in here.
Did he
Oh
jump in yet?
man, he jumped in, but
Am I on here?
Yeah,
oh
you
yeah,
are now.
you good now.
Okay. Philippians 2:12 says, wherefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. See, you can doubt and believe at the same time. That's why you have to exercise your faith. It's something that you have to work out. Once you have faith, you don't, oh, I got the faith of a mustard seed. Yeah, that's just a mustard seed. But your faith has to grow. Your work has to grow. Everything has to grow. And if it has to grow, that means you have to do some work. I think we think, oh, I believe. Yeah, you may believe on something now, and something comes and like you looking at like, man, is what I believe necessarily true? Is that all? Because it's something that you have to work on. You have to work towards. So as I'm working towards it, now I'm exercising. That means I'm putting it in action. That means I got to actually stand on it and ensure that it works. That means that there was a little bit of doubt there that like, okay, let me make sure this thing works. Let me make sure that when I stand on his word, I'm capable of standing. I'm capable of weathering the storm. I think people think like it's either belief or doubt. No, they go together because they work hand in hand, because now I have to push that doubt. It's like them weights. When you first put them 245s on there, it's like, man, I'm it's a little heavy. But then after a while, it gets easier. You can add more weight. You can add more things that you can adverse through. So it's not just either it is or it ain't when it comes to this, to me.
I love this conversation because this conversation is, if we take out the self. So first, let me answer the question as is. Right, self belief can coexist with self doubt. I would say yes, even in this context, because it depends on how you what do you believe in yourself, right? If I have self belief that I can bench press with those 245s on each side but I don't have, but I have self-doubt that I can deadlift that, right? So it exists, but it exists in different planes, right? Now, when I take self out and I go to where my brothers went, and you know, of course, you guys, you're gonna ask three preachers this question and and set us up for Bible study on the low. But I went to James 2 and 19, and of course, I read while y'all were talking. I was reading from 1 down to 19. I'm not gonna do that, but the conversation is between, you know, they're talking about faith and works. And what I like that James did is that James went to the concept of belief and faith to push the point home, right? Because he says, yes, you can have faith, but without works is dead. He says, if you tell a man to go on and do well, but you don't give him the nourishment he needs for his body, what good is it, right? He has one without the other. Faith without works, so it's dead. Then he gets into 19 and he says, thou believest that there is one God. And that's belief, right? Thou hast done well. But here's the danger about, and this is a doctrine that we push today, which is just believe and then just run on. As long as you believe, you don't need nothing else, right? Well, if you, that's a doctrine according to James 2 and 19. I'm gonna read it and let you figure it out. But he says, thou does well. The devils also believe and tremble. If all you have is belief and tremble, you're just as good as devils. That's because the devils do the same thing. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son up on the altar? So you can have you can believe, but if you lack faith, and that's where this conversation goes for me, is you believe that there is one God, but do you have faith in him? Do you have faith enough that you'll follow him to the end? Do you have faith that you'll give when you on your last? When his works don't look favorable, do you work? And so those who don't do the work that the Father set for us to do because they're afraid of missing out on something, or they're afraid of losing something, or they're afraid of not gaining nothing, then they don't, then yes, they have belief and doubt existing at the same time.
Oh, I'll redeem my time in a minute. Go ahead, sir.
No, you ain't got anything to add?
Oh, I do, but I'm waiting on you to, because you heard all three of us speak. We waiting on you to kind of come
No,
back.
I'm good. I just wanted to know, just, you know, you guys' thoughts on it, you know, you know what I'm saying? I just looking for more empowering perspective. That's all.
No,
You know?
you're good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you went against the grain, because I think, and that kind of goes back to like everything you heard. Like I agree with everything you heard both of them say, but that's what I was saying earlier, that there are different echelons of belief. Because let's just be completely transparent, and I'm only speaking for those people who believe in God. I'll start there. But does the God that I read look like Gaddy's God? Does it look like Roland's God? No, it doesn't. We have this thing that we call perspective. And so as long as my perspective is intertwined with my reading, then my image of who he is what my image is. So now when you start looking at different believers believe in a different version of God, especially when you start bringing in certain things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The person who is down in physiological needs, I promise you, the God that they worship does not look like a person who is up in love and esteem. I'm sorry, in esteem. So that person who is in esteem, the version of God that they serve looks totally, completely different because their needs are different. So when we start talking about belief and doubt, and we think they're totally opposite of one another, again, something that has not been taught right in the past years. No, they actually feed off of one another. You can't have a level of belief. It's like saying, go, and I like the fact that Gaddy brought faith into this conversation, because faith is the vehicle that takes me to what I believe. But at the end of the day, when I look at what it is that I say I believe, there must be a behavior and activity that goes along to support that thing. So if that is the case, your level of belief when it comes down to the true, authentic God, the real version that he articulates himself to be, it must mature over time. And in that maturation process over the course of time, you really start doing the things, behaving just like Christ and speaking to people just like Christ did, because he is the only example that you ever have, that you've never seen. Again, it's a reason why I'm saying never seen. He is the only example that you've never seen. So even in understanding his example, you're still putting your perspective in it. So it can't be a thing that's totally absent of one another. So when you look at it, it has like within a person, it's not so much as, you know, can I root one completely out? No, it's really more so of can I balance it to such a degree that what I believe actually overshadows what doubt is trying to tell me I cannot do, or what doubt is trying to tell me that does not exist. Can what I believe rise to the top regardless of doubt? And then I do the thing that my belief system is calling for. Therefore, now my belief system that and now has grown. And I like the fact that Roland brought in the exercising of it, because the exercising of the thing really gets you to the point to where your belief system grows.
I can dig all that. And now we're gonna, yeah. I think it was good to, like you said, for me to go against the grain. I think it just brought out more, just went a little bit deeper, brought out just more perspectives for people to be able to hear and chew on. And this is, I think, is definitely one of those podcasts on one of those shows that deserves a second watch. So if you haven't already, go ahead and share, like, hit the notification button, all those different things. Feel free to join and be part of the conversation. We're almost at the 1 hour mark. And with that being said, we're going to transition to the next question. So, gentlemen, I think all of us have been born here in the United States, right? Now, if one of us, if Roland was born in Jerusalem, Gaddy was born in Pakistan, Coach was born in South Korea, and I was born in Japan. Our beliefs, culture would probably be a little bit different. So I think that right off the bat, our community does play a role in shaping or supporting our beliefs. But the question is this: what role does community play in shaping or supporting your beliefs? So I went the extreme on purpose. And I went to these different countries because I know that these different countries practice different things, not even talking about religion, just talking about beliefs in general. So when we look at our community and who is part of our community, I think actually, while you answering this question, I want you to start off with who your community is, right? So a lot of times when we talk about community, people are under the assumption that if we look a certain way, that is who our community is. So when you're speaking and you're giving your answer on what role does community play in shaping or supporting your beliefs, if you don't mind, add in what community you're talking about.
I don't think I've gone first yet. I'll jump out there on this one. Uh, so when we talk about who my community is now, in the space of foundational teaching, I will always start with, you know, who raised you in the environment you grew up in, right?
But I
My
want,
parents.
for this question, I want specifically you, like specifically the available man's community. When you answer this, who is your community? I know we can speak in generalities about community, but I want to know what your community is, because it may not be mine. And we're up here and we're talking about this word community, but us and the people that's in the chat and people who are watching this, they may have a different version or different perception of what community is for them. So I want for us to just determine and let them know who our community is when we're answering this question?
So I still don't think, even if I'm talking about just myself, just because we're talking about the idea of shaping, I will have to start with my parents, those who raised me, my parents, my siblings, uh, the churches I went to, the schools I went to, the teachers that were around me, because that's who shaped my belief. Whether we're talking, and I like that you said, not just from a religious or spiritual standpoint, right? But what I believe about social, about the social environment, right? About race culture, about politics, about a lot of things. The things that I believed at the core came from the things I heard and the things that I saw growing up. So it is the very foundation. Whether I went that direction or not, it was based upon what I was exposed to. Now, my perception of the thing that I was exposed to is different. I think that's individualistic, but it gave me foundations of thinking. It gave me the foundations of understanding based upon where they were at that time. And so, as far as supporting, now that the community changes because as I got older, I grew, I studied, I gained a little bit more knowledge, and so the way I believe has shifted. It hasn't changed. It has shifted, and in that, so did my community. Uh, Now my community is very small. Uh, y'all looking at it right here on the screen, right? These are the people I call. If I got These are the people I talk to on a regular. These are the people who opinion matters when it comes to me sifting through information, me sifting through scripture, right? So my support comes from this circle right here. Every conversation we have, Lisa Key is gonna drop a scripture. It's gonna make me go back and look at it a little different now. I've seen that scripture 1,000 times, but what does it say now? Because she brought it up in this aspect. You get what I'm saying? So the support, to me, that changed. The community changed in support them from what it was and shaping, if that made any sense.
Oh man, what role does community play in shaping or supporting your beliefs? I think we've all, two of us on the panel are from the north, two of us are from the south. But that doesn't mean that simply being in certain regions we think the same or we were raised the same. Even now, I'm like Gaddy, where my community has changed over the years. So now, when I say, okay, when you ask me who is my community, I look at it as when the Samaritan, they said, "Who is my neighbor?" And when you say, "Who is my neighbor?" somebody could say, "Well, the person live next door to you." No, those that, and I'm gonna mess this up, but you know what I'm talking about, those that keep his commandments, those that follow after his law, those that adhere to him, those are my neighbors. That's my community now. Now I have other communities that I may be around or in the vicinity of. I have people that I was raised with, I have relatives, I have people that I consider family now, I have friends. I also have I could be considered part of a conscious community because of dialogues I have over there. So when I'm looking at my community, I'm saying those that not just think like me, but have, if you consider yourself, me and Dwayne had a conversation about this, and I said, well, anybody that considers themselves to have the Most High as a father and believe in his son, that's my community. Those are the people that I have relationships with. Other people I can have conversations with, but we don't have relationship. So the relational value is all about him and never about me, because I don't have to like your personality. I don't have to get along with everything you say and do. But when it's all said and done, when the rubber hits the road, if you follow after him, we have connectivity. So that's my community, and that's how it shapes my way of thinking and my way of receiving support when it comes to my beliefs.
So as I'm listening to everybody's, response to this question, I'm over here listening to Crucial Conflict. Hey, and if you guys remember that song. Anyway, I'm one of them folk that's from the South, Brother Samuel. So I'm just saying. Yes, I'm from the South, born and bred, born and raised, and I love it. I love it. There's absolutely nothing I trade about the South. All the South ain't country. I'm just gonna put it out there. I know a lot of them northern folk believe the South is just country folk. No, not all of us. We might speak differently. We might have different slang, different types, dialect, or whatever the case may be. We may swap out words in our own particular way. Those are things that were given to us in our community, in our culture. That's what mom and dad and them taught us. That's what our family members taught us. That's what they taught. They taught us how to speak a particular type of way. We seen what they did. We seen how they did, and that became ultimately our belief system. Therefore, me being born in Georgia, raised in South Carolina, what I had to realize is that my perspective, and I'm ultimately getting to what Roland ended up saying, just so you guys know, but my perspective of who God is came from my mama. That is a part of human development 101. If you didn't know it and never heard it, you heard it just now. A child's perspective of who the Most High is given to them from their mother until they get into the scriptures and research it for themselves, like what Gad was just talking about. So now, when it comes down to how I emotionalize that for moving forward, generally I do it the way they do it until I get out there and hit, like when I hit the road, like Roland was just talking about, because it has to work for me. I can't use hers for me. I had to develop my own. So when we look at what role does community play, it gives it to us in the beginning. Then it helps to shape it as time progresses. And then we develop it as time goes further along because we get out there and we move into the world we get out there and move into the world on our own and learn how to exercise those particular principles. My community, like you heard previously, are believers, right? It's not that I alienate anybody else. It's not that I think differently about people. It's not that I think lowly of them. If I really believe what I say I believe, then I have to love them. Therefore, my behavior must reflect. So when I talk about my community, who do I spend more time with? I spend more time with people who display the behaviors. They don't necessarily have to say it. That's the key. That's the thing where I think we mess up a lot. They don't necessarily have to say it, walk around professing it. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. In fact, I really wish people would shut up and stop saying that. I don't really care what your little title is, right? Forget your little title. Let me see your behavior. Show me your behavior, then that'll be the person that I connect with. But if you put your little title out there in the beginning, you better have the behavior to support it, because later on, don't be surprised if a person like one of these brothers on the screen call you out on your behavior because of your title. So that's kind of like what I'm gonna say. So anyway, that's just it. The community gives it to you at an earlier stage. It molds it as you progress, and then you practice it as you get older.
I think we've had some interesting perspectives on what community is, and I think that's a good thing. My perspective on community is it's the people that I am in contact with on a consistent basis. Now, these can be coworkers, they can be family members, they can be friends. They're all part of my community. However, they have different types of relationships within the community. Shell she gets the VIP treatment. Roland don't get the VIP treatment. No shade, but there's certain things that Roland he just can't get. That Shell gets.
I'm sorry, I don't think you want it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
that part. So it's like there's two different types of relationships. You know what I'm saying? But they both are part of my community. There are things that I may share and have a conversation with Roland that I may not have with Shell, and vice versa. And I think that those things are okay. So when I'm looking at community, I'm looking at all of those different types of relationships that I have within the greater scope of community. And maybe I'm a sociology major, and maybe that's why I'm going broad like that. I don't know. maybe that's where it's coming from. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about is, and all of those shape or support, in a sense, or at least give me insight about my beliefs. You know what I mean? So if I believe a certain thing and I say that this is the type of person I am, and I'm a believer, and I see the available man as being part of my community in that sense, then I'm probably not going to judge him. But as someone of a like mind, I may peek over and see what he's doing. You know what I mean? Just to, how can I put it? Because he may say or do something that I may not know. So I may be able to learn something from him, not to go over there to try to belittle him or to say, oh man, you know, you over here talking about this, but I seen what you posted on TikTok. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that I'm looking over at someone else in the community as, it's not to compare. I don't know what word I want to throw in right there, but just having a different perspective, just even like here, back, sound like we back down to perspectives again. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know.
I look at this question as it's a climate culture question. So when I look at the difference between climate and culture, one has to be higher than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And if I understand that culture is higher than climate, then I can create culture by influencing the climate. It takes longer to change culture, but I can change climate at a much faster rate. But the same thing with community. Relationships is the lower version of community. When you start combining relationships, that gets us to a community. So I like the fact that you mentioned relationships, but again, there has to be something that defines what relationships look like to us. And when we define what relationships look like, I don't think we can get away from the word behavior. Even in a work setting, I work with people. I don't have relationships with everybody I work with. Therefore, everybody I work with is not a part of my community. Sure, we have a working relationship that stays there in that particular building on that particular time. So when you get information that comes out in the group chat, whatever the case, hey, I'm going to do this right here, swipe left, right? Not my concern. I don't really care. So I think that, and that's the thing. I'm not saying anything against what you're saying. I'm just adding to what you're saying. Like I think a lot of times what we do, going back to what I said previously, we move at the speed of light. Oh, I like Mr. Martin's beard. So I want to have a relationship with him so I can find out, so I can learn more about beard. Okay, cool. But then when I put myself in Mr. Martin's presence, I behave, and I'm just going to use this as an example. I behave like I'm 10 years old. Mr. Martin going to create space. I want to be around that. So I think a lot of times when we look at the notion of community in relationship, we need to understand there has to be something that makes relationship available. Then when relationship becomes available, there has to be something that makes relationship grow and develop. And if relationship doesn't grow and develop, it is stagnant. And then when relationship itself becomes stagnant, it's now toxic, in my opinion, because if something that's supposed to grow doesn't grow, then there's something wrong with the something. So that's kind of like where I'm going. So when we go back to this role, about how community plays, sure, there are a number of relationships in our community. Like I talk about being from the South. You got mama, you got my uncle, you got my cousins, you got all them other folks, right? And we out there in the barn smoking on hay. No, I'm joking. Come on, man. Y'all know the song. Y'all trying to be too stiff tonight. But no,
I know the song.
But seriously, that ultimately becomes my culture. There's some cousins I vibe with, there's some cousins I don't vibe with. There's some cousins I vibe with stronger than what I vibe with my sisters. There's no secret to that if you know who I am. So at the end of the day, I think when it comes down to these things, like I think we got to kind of go back to the beginning and have a very decent understanding of what relationship is so that we can find ourselves in the most accurate culture that we should be in for that thing, for those relationships to grow. A lot of times we find ourselves in relationships to where, again, it's not in the right culture, so it's stagnant.
Yeah, they had another song too. Is it with Rodeo? I think Yeah. I remember that. I was jamming out to that stuff back in the barracks in Colorado Springs at Fort Carson back in the day. Back in the 90s. Moving right along though. We ain't going down memory lane tonight. I'm gonna skip a couple of these questions. We're gonna move down. We got about 2 more questions tonight, folks, and then we're gonna jump into our final thoughts. We may, depend on how long we spend on this one. Just to give you guys a heads up, we may make that last question the final thought. So, we've talked about faith and believing and different things like that tonight. So, with that being said, we started off with a question about starting the night with staying true to yourself, meaning to you personally. So now we kind of going back to that again. So bringing it back to self. So how does your faith and philosophy influence your sense of self?
I think we talked about it previously.
You think so?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I'm not saying the question is a bad question. I'm just saying that we talked about it previously. I think if I am living a life according to faith or living a life according to said philosophy, then who I know myself to be must change. I can't stay stagnant based upon, like, and I'm going back to, since I ended there, I'm going back to being raised in the South, hanging out with my cousins and all that other good stuff. Well, if this faith thing is my core belief system, then this thing I used to do with them cannot remain the same. The way I used to behave when it comes down to certain things cannot remain the same, because faith mandates that I change who I am to be more aligned with that thing that I'm hoping to get to. So therefore, in order for me to get to hope, I have to create the behavior that says the deeds that come from faith is really believing in the hope that I'm pointing at. So when I look at this faith that we're talking about, when I look at this philosophy, number one, it changes me from being angry when I was younger, right, to a person that is a lot more patient and a lot more compassionate. It changes me from the point to where I look at myself through the lens of what I was told I was, to getting to the point of understanding that I'm not who they say I am. I'm actually who he said I am in this book. So now that changes everything. That changes the way I exist in space. That changes the way I treat people. That changes the goals that I set for my life. That changes the space that I go and spend time with and who I spend time with. Because at the end of the day, it's okay for someone to believe something totally different or totally opposite to what I believe. I just can't put myself in those environments so to allow that thing to influence me. So again, I'm going to start there and I'm going to pause because I may have one in return.
No, I think, like you said, I think you did a good job of capturing it, this question and the other stuff that we talk about. So I feel comfortable moving on to the next question. So thank you. I appreciate that. Because I really wanted to get to this next question anyway. So it all worked out for me. So, gentlemen, one of the things that we in the coaching business, we are not big on giving advice. We ask questions and different things like that and allow people to come up with their own solutions and navigate their own path. But for tonight, I would like to give some advice. Now, this advice may work for you as someone who is listening, or it may not work for you. Again, like I mentioned earlier during the show, we are a subject matter expert of our own opinions. And this advice that we are sharing, it may or may not work for you. If it don't work, don't take it. And if it does, then maybe you can add it to your life. It may add some value, and it may help you moving forward with something something in your life. So, gentlemen, again, what advice would you give to someone struggling to find their own beliefs? What advice would you give to someone struggling to find their own beliefs?
I don't think that's just a snap to answer. I think that kind of hinges on the question that you just asked about faith and whatever that last question was. Because when you look at faith is something that's a complete trust in something, but you can have a complete trust in something that you don't necessarily know about. You don't know that it works. You don't know that it'll do as it said. So you have to learn about it. And that's where the whole philosophy comes in. When you look at philosophy, when you're studying about a thing, studying the nature of it, see, I love having philosophical discussions because it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be pinpointed in one area. So when it comes to somebody and their own beliefs, I always say the first thing when it comes to belief is believe and know who you are. Because until you know who you are, anyone can tell you you're this and you're that. So you can be moved here or there. So, first thing I would say with somebody struggling with their beliefs is, do you know who you are? Find that part out first. And then once you find out who you are, now you know how to navigate. Now you know how to move. Now you know, hey, I got to study more on this. I got to read more on this. And now, as you start to research, your level of self-awareness grows because once you start to see what your people or whom you are stood for, now you see those things what you won't fall for. So when it comes to somebody struggling with that, that's a person that doesn't really know who they are, what they believe, where they're going, where they're headed, or anything like that. So gain a knowledge of self first, and then you can work on beliefs, because until you know who you are, your beliefs gonna be all over the place.
I'm gonna jump out there. Charlotte Jordan, she was in the chat. I don't know if she's still watching, but I'm gonna talk about her right now. Not in a bad way, but we were growing up, she used to make sure that we were in church. You know, we were church on Sundays. In the morning time, we had evening service. Went on Wednesday, went on the weekend sometime. Then you had choir rehearsal, usher board meetings, whatever you may have been involved in. We got to do those fun things too, along with help clean the church. So we were pretty involved. We were young into the church. So, what advice would you give someone struggling to find their own beliefs? We got to get a lot of this information off of learning, because good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of what we learn and a lot of what our beliefs are not necessarily our own beliefs. They're things that our parents may have told us to believe. So, and I think that's hard because, when you've been raised a certain way your entire life, it's hard. It can be a struggle to find out if these are really your own beliefs or these are the beliefs that your parents instilled in you, and these are the ones that they want you to have. So I want to start by saying that it's not, like Roland said, it's not that easy. It's not as simple as just, boom, this is how you do it. Here's the advice. It's a one-step process, and boom, you're done. And then now you're no longer going to struggle, and you're going to be able to find your own beliefs. It's a lot of different things. And I think one of them is, you have to spend time with yourself. You have to spend time learning, asking questions to whoever it is that you may believe in or whatever like that, seeking guidance, seeking information, and listening for answers. Start somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't know necessarily where to start. Maybe you start by picking up the Bible. Maybe you start by picking up the Quran. Maybe you start by, having a conversation with a pastor or big mom, or tuning into the Hearts of Men podcast. Start somewhere, and just try to capture information. And the more information you capture, one thing is, the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. But also, the more information you get, if you start hearing a lot of different things over and over, there may start being some truth to it. But I guess I'll stop right there.
When I look at this, there are two different things I'm seeing. First, you have a person who is struggling to find their own beliefs, and then you have a person who might be challenging what they currently believe. That's what I'm seeing when I see this. Um, on one hand, my thoughts are, go back to your original culture. What do you remember? What were some of the things that they did? What were some of the things that they taught you? What were some of the values and principles that they taught you? Because I don't necessarily believe that everyone who is struggling to find their own belief is saying that they want my belief. So that's why I will start first. Understanding what it is they're searching for by asking some very important questions to get to the point of having a better understanding of what they're looking for, which means that they have to clearly define the problem set. Um, Now, on the other hand, when you have an individual who is, you know, finding some challenges with their own belief or challenging some of the things that they actually believe, I think that's a good space to be in. Um, and I think both are really good spaces to be in, but challenging what you believe is a good space to be in, which means that now you're in search of the truth. And being in search for what is true can get you to closer to the truth. And so now it's more so of having conversations about why they're struggling with this particular thing or why they're struggling with this notion of their belief or whatever the case may be. And then in the space of that conversation, getting closer to the why. Why is that a struggle point for you? Where did this come from? How did you get to this point? Okay, so now if this, then that. So now we have to do the puzzling piece, putting the puzzle together so that they can see it in their mind. I may already know the answer to their question, but me giving them the answer may not necessarily help them. Helping them to put the puzzle together in their mind is more advantageous to the person, because if I just give you the answer, then what that's going to do is create dependency. And no good leader, no good mentor, whatever that looks like, no one will want to create dependency. No one who's worth their grain of salt. I say it that way. So again, looking at it, you have a person who doesn't have a belief system and struggling to understand what that looks like and looking to codify that, and then the other person who is challenging what they really believe.
Man, while y'all were talking, of course, I was reading, um, and I'm reading in John 6, right? And in John 6, he he says he says to them, withdraw. He says, for you come seeking me not because you believe, but because of the bread that you were filled with, right? Um, and then he starts talking about the drawing into belief, is unto to him, right? Draw every man must be drawn unto Christ. So because of who I am, anyone struggling their belief, I would share Christ. But after I share Christ, all I can do is love them and be a brother. Because then he further goes down while they're questioning him about who he is and what sign ought he send. Then they begin to murmur when he says, for I am the bread of life. And then he says back unto them, he says in verse 44, and no man can come unto me except the Father which sent me draws him, and I will raise him up in the last day. So at the end of the day, one man sows, another man waters, but the Most High Himself does give the increase. And so I would just be a vessel, because I can't tell a person what to believe. I can only draw them towards what I believe, and that's in Christ. That's in the Son of the living God. That that's where I come from. That's what I'm going to speak on. That's all I can give unto you, right? If I'm broke, I'm gonna be like Peter and James. Silver gold have I not, but such as I have, I give unto thee, right? And so if anyone's struggling in their belief, I'm just gonna share Christ and Him crucified, and pray to the Father that He draws their heart so that they can receive Him. But every man Like Roman quoted the scripture earlier, must work out his own salvation with fear and trembling. So wherever that leads him to, wherever his or her belief ends up, as long as I do my due diligence to share Christ and the truth and the beauty of His holiness, that's it. I I can't. There's no more salt you can sprinkle on that, right? He is. He is the everlasting word. He is the truth. He is the way. He is the light. And so that'd be my only advice. And then I love him like a brother.
Gentlemen, I appreciate every word that you guys said tonight, and appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate this opportunity to be in you guys' presence. It's Friday night. It's a couple of days. It's the last show of the year for us. Some of y'all, we may not see each other to next year. And I always say that and jokingly and stuff like that, but at the same time, we all know that tomorrow's not promised. So I appreciate you guys for allowing me to be part of your space. Appreciate everybody for being here in the chat tonight. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready to close the show. But before we do, we want to end with a couple of words in the sense of our final thoughts. And we're going to give to you guys, and then we're going to be out of there. But before we do give you our final thoughts, make sure y'all hit the like button, to share, to save, and all of those different things like that before we roll out. Tune in, hit the links and all of that stuff like that, so you can watch us again next Friday and on Tuesdays and tomorrow morning on Sundays and all of that stuff like that. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with our final thoughts, and here we go.
All right, great conversation tonight. When it comes down to the power of belief, how to stay true to yourself in a changing world, I think it's important that we have clearly defined beliefs. Our beliefs must be rooted in something concrete. As you could tell, most of us here, well, I think all of us, our foundational belief system comes from the Bible. Therefore, it requires us to study and grow and learn, not staying fixed minded to who we think we are, but being open to change what my version of myself is today for a better version of myself for tomorrow. The world outside of me, the world does not dictate or mandate who I am. The world does not necessarily influence who I am, nor should it. It must be rooted in that belief system. Now, again, the other part of the belief system, I must be clear so that I can make sure that my perspective of my belief system not only is rooted in the authentic intent of what the words actually say. So what does that really mean? That means that I need to be open to my perspective of it being challenged. Like somebody else may have a different notion or a different idea about a thing. Be open to hearing that. Be open to sharing those perspectives with like-minded people for the sake of growing in elevation, not for the sake of competition, not for the sake of headbutting or anything of that nature, right? We must mature in the belief system that we say that we have. And in order for us to mature, we can't stay fixed-minded. So we lose the notion of a previous idea of staying true to myself to the notion of staying true. And then now my behavior, my perspective, my observation of myself must line up with that belief system. And so as I observe my behavior, as I receive feedback from other people about what they observe in my behavior, I be open-minded enough to receive it, grow from that, so that that can become a better version of so that can help create a better version of myself. And that is my final thoughts.
I love this conversation. This was a really good one, actually. But being true to yourself, as you heard, is an ever-growing mindset. We can never become so arrogant to the point that we believe that we have obtained anything. Your degrees just obtained you a higher status than me, but it doesn't mean you have become. Your certifications just means that you have more knowledge in the area than me, but doesn't mean that you have become. No, because there's always more to learn. So continue to grow in knowledge, right? Wisdom is a principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all that getting, get understanding. The two must come hand in hand, right? So continue to grow, continue to press forward. Let's not get stuck or become stagnant, because at that point, we begin to die. No matter no matter if it's in your belief system or in your occupation is forever changing. More knowledge is being discovered. More things are being added to it. Don't stop learning, or you become the dinosaur. You fade away, and never stop learning of the mysteries of the Most High, because the more you learn, the better we become as followers until He comes and raises us up in the last day. That's all I have.
Love the conversation. Appreciate my brothers on here. And we spoke about the power of beliefs, how to stay true to yourself in a changing world. I think first and foremost, be honest. Be honest with people. Be honest with yourself. You may not know everything. You don't know everything. So you can't just act the part all the time. Sometimes I remember when I was in the military, I used to have to act the part like I knew what I was doing, like I knew, so that they could believe in the situation or whatever. But that's not how life works. If you don't know, sometimes you just got to say, I don't know, and then gain the knowledge. Work on yourself. Have authentic relationships. I work on authentic relationships where people will know what to expect from me, and I can know what to expect from them. Because at the end of the day, when you have authentic relationships, it's not where, like, I don't know how they gonna respond. So now it's like you're topsy-turvy. You're wondering all the time, and you're unsure even of your status with them, whether or not you can say certain things. That's why nobody ever has to come to me and say, so you want me to tell you the truth? Yeah, I want you to tell me the truth. That's what an authentic relationship is. It's one where when you tell me the truth, I don't look at it as a negative. I look at it as something that you see that may help me grow. And since we're in relationship, I can respect your opinion or your observation of me. And also develop or work on your own self-confidence. That means sometimes you have to put in practice. When it comes to self-confidence, when it comes to confidence as a whole, when you do a thing a number of times, when you continually do it and practice at it and make it better, make sure you hone your skills on reading, you're studying, you're reading, you're working on the betterment of you, working on the betterment of me helps these brothers be dependent on me in a way that I may not see it today, but down the line, when I'm called to do something, it's because they know that they can count on me, because they see I've done the work to better myself. I've done the work to make sure that I'm more not marketable for a whole, but for this community to be dependent on. And also learn from everybody in every situation that you encounter. Never take someone for granted simply because of their status, simply because they may not be where you see them, or where you think somebody, oh, I can learn from this person, I can learn from that person. No, learn from everybody in every situation, even your losses. Learn from your losses so you won't lose again. And don't be personality driven. Some people are personality driven where I like how he said it, I like how she says it. No, learn from the people and don't be personality driven, because people as a whole may have value. And if you're only looking for a personality that you like, you may miss it. You may miss your blessing. So those are my final thoughts for the power of belief, and for you to stay true to yourself, because what it does, it helps you sit in the seat where you're not looking down on everybody, but you're looking at everybody, observing, because there's some value in everybody. That's all I have.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate all of those final thoughts. Chat, appreciate you again for being here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to close out this show, but before we do, mark y'all calendars for tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this same YouTube network, for an episode of Unmasking the Truth. debunking myths about men and women. You know that's going to be exciting. So make sure y'all tune in tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. And other than that, I think we're good to go. And we're going to see y'all. We are out.